Hi, this is Amber and True, and welcome to our podcast where we'll be interviewing Sabrina Cuniberto.
Starting off, can you tell us a bit about any current projects you're working on and like what your job entails?
Yeah, so I have just opened Ain't Too Proud, the Temptation musicals transferred from Broadway to West End, and I am the costume associate for Paul Tazewell, costume designer, and I am at the moment, as you can hear, it's quite loud, rehearsing for Mrs. Doubtfire transfer to the West End as well. That is a Catherine Zubeck design, and I am the costume supervisor, and then hopefully going to be the costume associate for the US tour of Mrs. Doubtfire. And what else? There's a lot going on because you can never plan when shows are transferring. So, and the last one on the line is Crazy for You, which is the revival of what was done like 30 years ago. We've done it last year in Chichester, which is a regional theatre, but we do all of the original creative. So Susan Stromer directed it. And I am the costume associate on that. That's my next project in line after Doubtfire. So it's quite busy at the moment. But yeah, very good. So great shows. And then Life of Pi, I do Life of Pi in the UK and internationally. So that's always a good one to have.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
going into kind of like the regarding like race and inclusivity and stuff like that. So you've worked on and been a part of like many different shows throughout your career. From your experiences, have you ever seen an issue with inclusivity regarding race?
Is very much depending on the show. I think I have been really fortunate to work on shows that are mostly diverse, like the majority of the cast is diverse, and like it actually feels quite awkward when the casting is not. It's not, it might not be a choice, but I've done many shows like Motown and Beautiful and Hairspray where there's like it's quite easy to split, or there's a majority of like diverse cast, and so I'm quite used and very happy and like comfortable with cast that are of this nature, and that should be the case all the time. So I haven't really experienced, obviously things are evolving and changing all the time. But yeah, no, I think the majority of the casting I've been fortunate to work with diverse, like quite vastly diverse, which is great, and it makes it very different. Also, like different shows are different, but like for example, Life of Pi is mostly like from one kind of ethnicity. Motown is a different story, so and it's just so very different the way the cast approaches to the musical or the play, and like how to like deal with them and make sure that they're always comfortable and they feel like listened and like absolutely looked after, and then like what as much as I can from my perspective anyway. So I hope, touch wood, that they're all happy with what they've been provided. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of going from that. So from your perspective as a costume designer or supervisor, are there any specific aspects of designing or working with costumes that are important to keep in mind when supporting global majority artists, also known as BIPOC artists?
Yes, definitely. There is a lot of like I try to like I think it's a bit easier in the States for some suppliers and some available products that we might not have as widely available in here as you might think. But I'm always really conscious about making sure that the underwear is color matching, like the skin, and like if there's anything that needs to be like addressed in a certain way, it has the appropriate characteristics. So like I think so we're trying to move towards that as much as we can, and sometimes it's just the times restriction. But I like, for example, like even just a simple mic belt, I don't want to give a mic belt to an actor that is like dark skinned, that is necessarily black. Why can I not just give a black, like a brown shade of elastic that will work better on their skin? So we've done that on Ain't Too Proud, and that's the first time we actually had the time to address it and find the correct elastic and make sure that everybody has like skin and like skin matching underwear where we can. And sometimes it's quite difficult just because we literally don't have the supply. So we are trying proactively to address these issues, but it just becomes sometimes we just have limitations that are beyond us and we can't do anything. But we're very open with the cast, and like I always just explain to them, and like this is what we're trying to do. But if we can't accommodate it, we'll work towards it. And sometimes if we need to dye them specifically, we will. But if it's something that reach, you know, like we can't make it work, people dying it, then we just have to compromise. But I think we, you know, the aim is to get it as you know, respectfully as possible to everyone's, like, you know, background and origin. So that's what I try to do.
Yes, yeah. Has there been like an example with a theater or company that you've worked with that was just really successful in incorporating diverse racial representation?
I don't know. I think it's quite tricky for the actual like company as a whole. Like every producers deal with shows in different ways, and I feel like so last year I worked on Get Up Stand Up, which is a musical about the life of Bob Marley, which I was really, is a British production, so I was really pleased and really honored to be part of it. And I was really like, I enjoy the process, and actually it's probably one of the few shows I've done where the majority of the creatives were all like from the Caribbean, like kind of like related or somehow like in their background were like more attached to this instead of being like a full white creative, like telling a story of a mixed race man. You know, it's just, so it felt like it was all like, I felt at time not inappropriate, but like kind of in the wrong place, which I think is okay and it's fine. And I kind of had to have conversation, which were quite tricky with the director, but they made me feel like very welcome, and they helped me, like they kind of helped me in the process. Not that I needed help, but just like to make sure that I was kind of not doing the right things, because at the end of the day, that's not my background. And as costume designers, we research and we do all of the back work, whatever the piece is. So I still have done my research, but nevertheless, that's not my experience, is not what my family have experienced. So I think in that respect, it was definitely diverse and very looked after from that side of things. But then moving on, when the show opened, I feel like then the production company failed a little bit on looking after the cast and the way that they portrayed they would. So, but that's kind of is beyond what I do. It's like it's another type of management that like companies do in different ways, and not all of them are necessarily successful at doing it. But that's, I think they also tried to find their feet. It's like, I think after we came back from the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, and like I think those issues were like raised at such a different level that everybody's trying to find their feet. And I think sometimes they're trying, but they're not really, I don't think they're targeting what the cast wants or what they're expecting necessarily. I think they're trying too hard and they just miss some points that are more important. So it's just like try to find the balance. And I think some people are finding it easier than others. And you know, I think we're slowly like finding our, I mean, it should be quicker. It took far too long to get to this point. But hopefully I think we're heading that direction. It's just, yeah, I just think, yeah.
Yeah. Would you think that like in terms of like the UK versus like US in the theater realm, do you think that one would be like farther ahead, or one is because just looking like through my research and stuff, it does seem that there are some aspects where the UK is like a step ahead than the US. What are like your thoughts on that?
Well, it's just, I think sometimes I think that, sorry, they're very loud. I think sometimes I do things that over here were a bit further ahead, but then in other things we're not. I think it's like a very fine balance. And again, it's like, because I live in London and it's a big city, it's a very different reality than everywhere else in the UK. And I think it's probably very similar in New York, like if in America. So if you're like in New York or like a bigger city, the situation is a bit further forward and not maybe out in the country. It's very mixed. And not to say that the countryside is behind or backwards in nation form, but it's just the mentality and the people live in a different way. So I think it's just, you know, but I think, I don't know, I think we're pretty equal. It's kind of balanced. You think, oh my God, we're doing so much better here, and then something happened, and like it's not, you know, I think we're all trying to move towards the right place, but whether we're moving faster or not, I don't know. Because sometimes I think, you know, the US are definitely ahead of us, and then other things I'm like, well, no, actually, we're not. I think it just kind of goes, it goes in waves. It depends. I mean, I think in general we should all be a lot further. But you know, sadly I think we're just not moving as fast as we, you know, like we come to it a bit too late, but hopefully we can make up the time.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Have a great day.